I'm Rachel,
And I'm Amanda.
and this is episode 41 of Books and Bingos. This week, romance is in the air. Joining us today is special guest host Amber Rothsneder, aka Anxiously Booked. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Amber.
I am a middle school librarian by day. I'm currently teaching undergrads in a library science program online at night. And then I have a almost 3-year-old somehow. I have a baby girl on the way. She's due in June. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, my hobbies include napping, reading, and watching football. So that's about where we are at.
Nice. All right. Well, first up, a quick announcement. Our book club pick has been chosen. We're going to be reading Get a Life, Chloe Brown by Talia Hibbert together. I believe that episode will be released late February, early March-ish. I can't remember the date off the top of my head, but if you would like to join us for that chat, definitely get your hands on a copy and read with us. And my question today to open our little episode is why do you ladies love romance so much?
Go for it, Amber.
All right. So I'll be honest, like up until oh my goodness, I don't even know, like all through undergrad and grad, um, I had a grad assignment when I was in my library program that we had to read because we were preparing to be librarians. We had to read genres that are different from our like go-tos. So at the time, my go-tos were graphic novels, middle grade, historical fiction, um, and so my choices were I read a thriller, which was out of the norm for me. I read a romance and I read a fantasy. Now, fantasy is still not my jam, and that's okay. Like I've accepted it. It's fine. But I do enjoy a good thriller, and I have since like romance is my go-to. And one of the reasons I love it is I am, as my handle states, anxiously booked. I am an anxious person by nature, and there's something comforting about knowing that in the end, like they will have a happily ever something, whether it's a happily ever for now, happily ever after. Like, I don't have to worry that the ending is going to be like stressful for me. Now, that's not to say that there's not tense moments and things that happen in the book where you're like, oh my gosh, or if it's a series where it leaves you on a cliffhanger, but just like knowing that it's going to end well, it's kind of like watching a Disney movie for me. Like, I know in the end it's all going to be okay. It just might be rocky getting there.
100%. Like, I could not agree more on that anxious side of things. Like, it's really nice to kind of know where it's going, but it's the getting there that is the exciting part and the part that we, I think, live for. And I love all the different tropes and just like romance in general. It's really the genre that made me, really become an avid reader when I was in high school. And then I see my students get so into it for the first time, thanks to like TV shows like To All the Boys I Loved Before and, My Life with the Walter Brothers or Boys. And so having them go through a similar experience that I went through is always so exciting to watch that love of romance and letting them know that romance is legitimate. It's reading and it shouldn't be mocked or made fun of because that's still something, a stigma that we fight all the time. So,
I think that's important too. I try to relay to the kids like there's different forms of reading. There's reading for learning and there's reading for enjoyment. And both of them are legit, but like romance may not be something you're reading to learn about, but it's something you're doing as your hobby and that still counts as reading, just maybe not in an academic setting, you know? And I think they're great palate cleansers. Like if I've been reading a lot of heavy things, I'll read one of those just kind of as a light, kind of quick read. I feel like they go pretty fast. It's just a way to like relax and read instead of really having to pay attention or really watch for the clues or whatever. It's a great palate cleanser, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
mhm.
So, in that vein, let's talk about some palate cleansers. Amanda, why don't you tell us about your first pick?
Okay, so my first pick is On Again, Awkward Again by Erin Entrada Kelly and Kwame Mbalia. That one had been catching my eye when I saw that it's been sort of like they dropped the cover and it just looks so cute and very kind of 90s vibes, like with the way they were dressed and stuff like that. And I love both of these authors. And when I found out that it was a lower YA romance, I was in it because that's, I feel like a gap in publishing is that it goes straight from like crushes and maybe holding a hand straight into like a very mature relationship. And there's not a whole lot to bridge the gap between the two. So for like my upper, like my more mature middle schoolers or on the lower side of high school, I feel like they need something to kind of help before they move straight into something a little bit more mature in the young adult category. So this follows Pacey Mercado and Cecil Holloway. And they neither one of them is interested in romance, right? They're like freshmen in high school. They have their own things going on. They really don't want anything to do with the love stuff that their friends seem to be obsessed with. But when they see each other for the first time in the nurse's office, it's like, boom, love at first sight. And now they don't know how to navigate that because it's not something either one has ever had that experience with before. Not to mention, both are super awkward. And I love that because so many tweens and teens are super awkward and they don't really quite know how to navigate crushes and romance and stuff like that. So it was adorable. So many laugh out loud moments as Pacey and Cecil like ask advice from friends and family on what to do next. And they make mistakes after mistakes trying to win one another's affection while also serving on the school dance committee together. So it was just very unique, right? Because, like I said, we don't have a whole lot of books in this category. I think a lot of like Casey West's titles, we recently did an episode on her because she is just like that sweet romance of the younger YA category that I can hand to kids and know that, kissing is probably going to be the most that happens. And I feel like we need more representation in this area. I loved just the overall BIPOC representation that Kwame and Erin brought to this story as well. And having two different perspectives of a male and a female author was just like rom-com gold in my opinion. So this title releases on April 15th. The content warnings are divorce, bullying, mental health issues, medical content, and allergic reaction, which is actually kind of funny in that part of the story. The bingo squares that it would represent would be romance, black rep, 2025 release, female author, and BIPOC women rep.
I feel like I've seen this cover everywhere lately. It's just on every single list.
Yeah, I can't
Because
wait
it's
for it.
like all neon too, so it really like
Yes.
stands out. Yeah.
Right? Like it was seriously giving me like 90s vibes. It wasn't set in 90s, but honestly, like I think Kwame and Erin grew up during that time and they like had their own like so I'm sure there was like some nostalgia when they were putting that cover together.
I have to say too, Pacey really drew me in. As soon as I heard you say that, I'm like, oh, Pacey?
Yes, it's like our Dawson's Creek lie. Yes, agree.
Yes. I want to read it just because somebody's name's Pacey now.
Right? Oh my gosh. So that was just like total throwback.
I love it. Awesome. Well, we got a little wait there. It doesn't come out until April 15th.
I
I'm
know, but
excited.
it's gonna be such a hit. I'm gonna book talk the
Yes.
heck out of that one.
Yes. I love it. All right, Amber, tell us about your first pick.
All right. So the my first pick, I'm gonna do like a quick series spotlight. So Jennifer McMahon, she is an indie author. Her first series came out, I want to say the first book maybe came out in 2023, but the rest were all 2024 releases. So there's four books in the series. It's called Firsts in the City. Um, and each book follows a different sibling, so they're all standalones, but they all have different tropes as well. Um, None of the books have a third act breakup, which we love to see. Um, they are an adult, it is an adult romance, so it does have some spice. I would say they're probably like a solid, for me, they're like a solid three, meaning like it's not like 50 Shades of Grey, but it's not like a peck on the cheek either. Like it's somewhere in between. There's open door, there like there's some spice. Um, so the first book is A Single Dad and Nanny, A Second Chance. They meet each other and then they don't see each other for like 4 years and then they like happen upon each other. He needs a nanny and things go from there. One of my favorite quotes from that book is, "If the shoes aren't red on the bottom, then I don't want to see them on your feet." So, that goes to show you our male main character is a billionaire. He is a single dad to a um little boy who is just so dang cute. Book two follows another brother. So book two, the first book is called That First Night. The second book is called That First Date, and that is a fake engagement, hate to love, boss and assistant. That one was definitely spicier than the first one, but it's so good. Like she is terrified of commitment. And he's like, I want this. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is so out of the blue. Like this is like not out of the blue, but it's out of the norm. Um, so I really, really loved that book. You actually get a preview of one of the characters in the third book in that book. But That First Date, my favorite quote is, "I'd rather do this complicated chaos with you than do easy with someone else." And that just like my heart. Um, the third book is called That First Flight. Um, like the quote, "Catch flights, not feelings," like that is our male main character. Like he does not do relationships, he does not do feelings. He is like, no, thank you. Absolutely not. But he meets this woman on this flight. She's a single mom. He doesn't necessarily like he doesn't know that she's a single mom because her and her daughter get separated on the plane. Um, and he just like head over heels, 100%, like instantly in love with her. They like part ways after the flight. He can't find her again, and they somehow, I won't tell you how, they reconnect, and it just kind of blossoms from there. Um, my favorite quote is, "You should already know that I'll give you anything you want. You want control. I will gladly get on my knees for you. You're my weakness, Macy." So we love that. And the fourth book, so this is the final book in this series from her. This was her first series. Um, it follows the sister of the family, Emmeline, and it is a brother's best friend, police officer and nurse, which is like a new, like, I don't see that often in romance. And then it has like really really accurate anxiety and mental health rep for both characters, both like the female and the male character. They both have things that they're battling with. Um, she is the nurse, he is the police officer. He really wants to be like the head of the police department. I forget, I think it's called chief. Um, and like he is afraid of commitment because he doesn't want something to happen to him and like the person he is with to be left alone and to deal with that like his um dad had done to his mom. And so there's just like there's a lot of different pieces to this puzzle and it's like it's a really emotional book. Um and it's just there's so many tender moments as well as like moments where you just want to like slap each character and be like, "Hello, stop fighting this. It's right there." Um, and my favorite quote from that one is, "I can't have you, but that doesn't mean I don't want you." Um, so that is her first series. It is, like I said, called The Firsts in the City. Those would on the bingo card go for 2024 release, romance, and obviously free spot. She does have a book coming out. I want to say it's early this year. I want to say March or April. I can't remember off the top of my head. But she's starting a new series. It's going to be a small town romance. And the first book coming out is called Finding Home.
Those sound so cute. I love all the different tropes and I love a good arc overarching theme, right? And so I like that it's the siblings that we follow each one. Like that's so my jam. And I also like that they're all out. So thank you for recommending one, an indie author, and two, the whole series is out. And I appreciate that.
Yes. And books one, two, and three are currently out on audio. Book four, I think, is still in the works, but one, two, and three are out on audio and are fantabulous.
Yay.
Wonderful. And you kind of highlighted with the series another thing I like about romance of like the series, you don't have to read them in order. Like it's just very stress-free reading a lot of these romance picks because you can just pick them up and just dive in, you know?
Yeah.
And once you find one you like, there usually is a whole series, and then you get to like see the characters again a little bit. Oh, I love it.
Yeah.
All right, well, my first one at this point, I believe, is going to be a standalone. Although I could see potential maybe for a series, but nonetheless, it just recently came out in December. It's called Under Lock and Key by Lana Ferguson. I picked this one up mostly based on the cover because it was completely adorable, but this is a very adult 18 plus monster romance. Definitely adult. I put think Beauty and the Beast meets Little Mermaid with a cryptid and Scottish accents. That was my pitch. We follow our main character Key going to Scotland to find her long lost relatives after her life has kind of crumbled here in the States with the death of her dad. And the very first person she meets there is this really grumpy but very hot man who ends up working on her family's farm. So while she's struggling to rebuild this connection with the family she's never known before, she ends up discovering she might be part of a legend involving the mythical Scottish cryptid, and she might be a lot more tied to the hot farmer than she would like. I mean, I put romance is what it is. Like, this is not going to be, some literary award winner that people read, hundreds of years from now, but it was a lot of fun to read, and it was fun. It was spicy. It was kind of a fun little twist. And I think the cover was adorable. This has tropes of enemies to lovers, sunshine grumpy, monster romance, and some magical realism in there, which I liked. Content warnings, again, sexual content for 18 and up, death of a parent, grief, blood, violence, kidnapping and confinement recalled from like way before. So it's not, a current thing. They're recalling it from part of the legend. For squares, it would be a 2024 release. Romance and romantasy for our year-long reading challenge. This would be good for your romantasy square or a romance trope you don't normally read.
So tell me, well, if you can,
Yes.
without spoiling, he's the Loch Ness Monster. Is that what we're talking about here? Like,
Yes, he's the Loch Ness Monster.
okay.
And if you look on the
So,
cover, like he's kind of coming up out of the water, and if you look at the shadow, you can see the Loch Ness monster. And
yeah.
yeah, I like the way they do this. I think I like this world that they're living in with this Loch Ness monster. And yeah, but he is the Loch Ness monster. So of course she falls in love with the Loch Ness monster.
As
I
one does.
will say, like, romantasy and like monster romance, I have yet to dip my toe in that specific pool. Um, I do enjoy Lana Ferguson's writing. She has another one I haven't read yet, but it's called similar to the monster romance. It's called The Fake Mate, which is also, I think I would put that under romantasy because I believe he is a werewolf.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah,
not
I
sure if
haven't read
she
it
is.
yet, but I remember when that one came out.
Yeah, but she also has other like I want to say like straight romance, like
Yeah.
non-monster
I feel
romance
like this is like
out
monster
as well.
light because I mean he doesn't exist as the Loch Ness monster all the time. In this world, he becomes the Loch Ness monster at dark. So during the daytime, he's just a regular hot guy. So I mean, I feel like there's some wiggle room here. So if you're not ready to go full like monster romance, you can start with this where it's like half monster.
Fair enough. Fair
Okay.
enough.
Good
It
to know.
was fun.
Monster Light.
Yes. All right, Amanda, tell us about your second pick.
Okay, so my first one, obviously, I had to do YA because I love me some YA romance, but this one is obviously what I love to read the most, which is adult romance. And it is called Flirty Little Secret by Jessica Lepe. And it is perfect if you love the you've got mail trope. But it is set at a school, which is what I loved the most. I don't get to read a whole lot of teacher romances. Not that that's like a thing that I'm like into. Like that would be really weird to have like romances happening at my school. But I think in the literary world, it's super cute and funny. So online, Lucy Galindo utilizes her alter ego, and it's an Instagram profile that she's created called at the Misguided Counselor, where she can be brave and confident and give counseling to others. She is a school counselor, right? But in real life, she struggles with self-confidence and has a lot of feelings of self-doubt. She has a lot of mental health issues going on, which I absolutely adored the representation, like how honest she was about it and where she has to work on things. And it definitely makes her feel separate from her family. But as the misguided counselor, she has been chatting with like her best friend, which is an online teacher, and but they don't know who each other is because she has like this anonymous profile. So when the new history teacher starts working at Lucy's school, she embarrasses herself in front of this guy. She feels awkward. And he's like super nice, but then I'm gonna tell y'all he might be the guy that she's chatting with this whole time. I mean, I don't want to spoil it, but that might be something that you'll see pop up. So she's having feelings. She starts to have feelings for him, but then she feels conflicted because she loves her online friend and really is thinking about meeting him in person too. So, what do we do if they're the same person? So, it ends up being very much like you've got mail, but through like Instagram DMs and email. And it's definitely like a tech romance for today's reader. Just so much representation, like I said, on the mental health spectrum, as well as just like she's Latina. So there's a lot of culture with her family that gets brought into it. The content warnings would be mental health issues, panic attacks, infidelity, suicidal ideation, ableism, toxic relationship, pregnancy, body shaming, sexual harassment, racism, religious bigotry, and anti Semitism. The bingo squares would be 2024 release, romance, a book you borrow, because I got it from the library, female author, and BIPOC women rep. It does have a dual point of view, which is one of my favorite types of romance to read. I like to be in both characters' heads. So definitely, definitely, absolutely love this one. It was a 5 star for me.
The first thing I thought while you were describing this is, man, I'm glad she started on Instagram and not TikTok because she would be very
Right?
sad today.
Today is the official day of the TikTok ban. That's when we're
Yes,
recording this. So yeah, very timely.
very timely. Oh my goodness. Yeah, that sounds cute. I think it is always kind of weird to have like romance in schools because I mean, I think we know that that's not realistic. Like, I
Right.
barely have time to go to the restroom, like, let alone like strike up some romance in the
Preach.
hallways.
Right? Right?
Yes,
Agreed.
I love it though. Fantastic. Amber, you ready to tell us about your second pick?
I'm so ready.
Yes.
Okay. So this is another indie author. I was actually able to meet her at a signing event in, oh goodness, like May-ish of last year. I went to the signing. I had like heard of her, but I hadn't read any of her books. And so I was like, okay, like I went up to her and I was like, so tell me about your books. Like, what are they? And I absolutely like fell in love with her writing, and now I'm like all in. But um, so the book I'm gonna book talk, it's the start of a series similar to First in the City. So it is called The Quiet Horsemen. So this is like we call it a dark Western. Listen, I didn't think I liked cowboys. Okay. But here I am. Um, I'm currently sucked into Yellowstone. This book reminds me, it's like Yellowstone in book form. It's got like those dark themes. It's got like things happening where you're like, holy cow, they don't just like wrangle up steer all day. Like there's all kinds of other stuff happening. Um, so the first book in the series is called Bull Rush. It takes place on Bull Rush Ranch. And basically we meet Ramsey, which is the male main character. We actually meet him in her series prior to this one. He is a football player. Her books prior to this series are all football romance. She has one Why Choose hockey romance as well. But we actually meet him. He's a football player. We meet him in the book Mine to Gain, which just actually came out in audio. Um, but he gets into some trouble at the end of that book. We'll leave it at that. And Bull Rush picks up kind of where that ends. And the blurb that I'm going to give is still married. When Hazel finds out that she's still married to Ramsey and that he is back in Purgatory Falls, she is far from happy. I mean, life was just starting to turn in a positive way for Hazel as she's currently engaged to a guy named Curtis and finally running the inn. So when Ramsey shows up naked and showering outside his RV right in front of the diner that she's working at, she knows she's in trouble for at least the next 90 days. Um, so yeah, it definitely starts off with a bang, not in the literal sense, but in a like, oh, okay, we're doing this sense. Um, and like I said, I did not think I liked cowboys, but here I am. We're turning a corner. Definitely a little bit of like morally gray characters. Um, some of my favorite quotes were sugar. That's what Ramsey calls Hazel, sugar. So, sugar, when it comes to you, I remember every single thing. I want you forever, Hayes. Please let me keep you this time. So, like, he's such a like morally gray, like rough around the edges guy, but with Hazel, he's just this like mush. Like, I love it. Um, so the second book in this series called Dark Horse will actually come out at the end of March. I think it's March 28th. And it follows Ramsey's brother. And that's all I will give you. She just did her cover reveal, so if you want to check the new cover out on her Instagram, it's Maggie Rawdon. Um, she has a ton of books out on her backlist as well that would be great for a bunch of different tropes.
I'm gonna tell you right now, I was gonna mention the cover because Amber recommended Bull Rush to me for my 24 to read in 25, and I was like, oh, okay, with the cover, right?
Hmm.
It's sexy time. So I was like, oh, it's one of those romances. But then you book talk it and it seems like it has a whole lot of substance with it as well.
Oh
So
yeah.
if you're looking at cover like, oh, this is pure smut. Usually they get that to get people in, right? To like draw them in, but then there's
Hmm.
usually a lot of heart involved in the story as well. That quote was like the
I
best.
want to say like it may just be that I'm currently obsessed with Rip from Yellowstone, but like Ramsey kind of reminds me of Rip in that like morally gray way that like he's rough around the edges, but like if you've watched Yellowstone, like Yellowstone when Rip is with Beth, like
Mm,
just like a
that-
totally different person. Like
Aw.
he's soft for her. Like he
Cynical.
just
Yeah,
yeah. So it's like there's so many different things going on. There's definitely a little bit of romantic suspense as well because there's different events happening behind the scenes. So
I love it.
there you
I'm so
go.
excited now.
Yeah. And we're always a lot more willing to tolerate, problematic men in romance books as opposed to in real life. Like that wouldn't fly in real life.
No, no.
But we love it in books.
Yeah. I mean, I woke up yesterday, it's cold. I'm in PA and I'm like, I just want to be like comfy. So what sweatshirt do I grab? My sweatshirt that says my favorite color is morally gray. And my husband Jim's like,
Yeah.
"What? What? I don't."
That's
I'm like, "Just
amazing.
just let it go. Just
Yeah.
let it go. I don't have the time to explain this to you."
Yeah. On paper, it works well. Well, I wanted to pick another Scottish romance and have like a whole Scottish theme, but I did not like the one that I had. So I pulled one from a couple years ago that I really, really loved, and it's called When in Rome by Sarah Adams. This is an adult romance, but I am like 99.9% sure it's a closed door romance. So
I think
if you're not
so.
into that, this would be great. It's very much alluding to the film Roman Holiday because we have a celebrity who is in need of a big break from the public, and she decides she's going to take her own Roman holiday, but the closest place she can get to is Rome, Kentucky, not actually Rome. So that was already fun. That's what really drew me into this because I thought that was hilarious. And I'm in Ohio, so not far from this. And of course, her car breaks down right in front of a local who is completely hot and grumpy. And he begrudgingly agrees to let her take his spare room while she's kind of getting her life together. Meanwhile, of course, she's helping with the bakery and kind of embedding herself in the community and gets friendly with his sisters and works her way into his little grumpy heart. This is a series, and I'm very excited to read more of these. I believe the third one just came out. So I'm excited to read more because I love this one so much. This has the grumpy sunshine, forced proximity, and like celebrity in a small town, all that going on for it. Content warning is death of a parent, dementia, and gaslighting. Squares would be romance and female author, and the challenge for the year would be romance trope you don't normally read. But yeah, I very much enjoyed this one. This was one of my favorite reads a couple years ago, which kind of surprises me. Usually romance don't make it that high on my list because like I enjoy them and then I move on, but this is one that really stuck with me.
Yeah, that sounds, I've read Sarah's before, and she is mostly like a closed door, just like sweet, clean kind of
Yeah.
romance. And so
Yeah.
if you're listening, you have a lot of range to choose from this
Yeah.
Yes.
episode.
We have a big spice range
I was
here.
gonna say if you don't if you want closed door, don't take my Rex.
Right?
That door is wide open off the hinges, okay?
I'm usually more on Amber's side of things.
Hey, I wanted to do one of each
Yes,
because I like to do the range there.
right.
So it
Me
works.
too.
It works.
It
I
does.
read a Sarah Adams book, but I cannot for the life of me remember which one it was.
Is it
She
It
has
wasn't One in
the
Rome. It
cheat
may have been the one
sheet?
after that.
Cheat Sheet is was kind of popular for like
Yeah.
when it came out. I remember that one. And the covers are so cutesy, like
Hmm.
precious.
One of the challenges on the Read Harder challenge this year from Book Riot is to read a romance without an illustrated cover. And I looked through my list of like books I wanted to read, and I had not one book that was
Yeah.
romance that did not have an illustrated cover on there.
Um,
So I'm gonna have to
Bull
branch
Rush.
I
out.
got plenty I can send
Bull
you,
Rush.
Rex.
Yeah, if you're looking,
Check
that
in
one
with Amber.
is
I love an
not
illustrated
illustrated.
cover. I don't know why, but I love
Me
those.
too. And it's like a thing now too in publishing. There's so many. But
Yeah.
I will say from a middle school librarian standpoint, for
It's
example, like Icebreaker, they think it's like a
Yes.
book that's on their level. And I'm like, no.
It's like, no, no, no.
uh-huh.
YA ones have people on the cover, like
Right.
actual photograph type
Yeah.
people. So
Yeah.
if it's
Yeah.
illustrated, don't read it.
Yeah. I remember like I was in an indie like my our local indie bookstore and there was like I would say this was like my guess would be like an incoming sixth grader and she's like standing at the romance section and she's looking at these cartoon covers and like the librarian in me and the mom in me is like, oh my God, where is your mother? I need to tell her that you cannot read these books.
Right.
Um, so eventually the mom came over and I was like, listen, I'm just from like human to human, mom to mom, like I'm a middle school librarian. I would not put any of these in my middle school library. She's like, oh, okay, so like they're not good for her age. I was like,
Send her to the
no, no,
YA section.
ma'am.
Yeah.
Right.
I
No,
do think
ma'am.
it would be nice if they came with like some sort of a spice rating level. Because like I mean some of our kids could handle adult romances, like even like this one because it wasn't that spicy. But
Hmm.
I think it would be nice if it was like a little bit more transparent because sometimes you don't know what to expect. You know what I mean? Unless you're
Right.
going online and searching,
Right.
it's hard to tell. And some people don't like that, which is fine, but it'd be nice to have some warning sometimes.
Yeah.
Hmm.
All right, and those are our recommendations for the week. Special thanks to Amber for joining us. Amber, where can our listeners follow more of your reviews?
They can follow me. I am on Instagram as at anxiously booked. Um, I do have a Goodreads, although I've been slowly moving over to Storygraph. But honestly, even there, I'm not the best at remembering to post my reviews there. Um, it's just my brain, it's all over the place. But the most reviews place I post the most is definitely my Instagram, which is anxiously booked.
Perfect. All right, if you have any questions, suggestions, comments, reach out on social media at Books and Bingos or email us at booksandbingos@gmail.com. Thanks for listening and join us again next week when we'll be spotlighting books with Black voices. Happy reading.